Good evening. It's November 5th. My name is PJ Capozzi, Superintendent of Schools from Meridian CUSD 223, and Kevin Glendenning, our Chairman of the Finance Committee, sitting next to us. Our job here tonight is to debrief a little bit for the public who could not attend tonight's meeting about what occurred. We had three major agenda items to deal with today. First one dealt with our levy for fiscal year 17. So what a levy entails is somewhat complicated and complex, and so the effort that I made tonight was to go through a PowerPoint presentation to explain kind of the what, the why, and the how a levy works. Ultimately, the decisions that need to be made tonight were what our next steps were in terms of procedures to go through the levy, of which we will vote on in December. So Mr. Glendenning can speak a little bit more to the discussion that we had surrounding what our options are with the levy.
First of all, Mr. Capozzi walked us through the levy process, which is sort of, it's not overly complex, but it is trying to understand it, and he did a really good job of explaining, which he will do when we have our levy hearing. And it's a process that we have to, because we don't know our equalized assessed valuation number for sure. It's a process that almost calls for some, we're almost taking a guess at it, and since finance is so tight right now in our district, as you all know, and even with the referendum that's passed, we still face financial issues, and there are some state issues that we've been made aware of tonight that could be on the horizon that will can complicate that further. So this process was it's a very important process, and I commend Mr. Capozzi for walking the board through it, and I feel confident that he will walk our community through it at the levy hearing.
Ultimately, I think what most people that are watching this want to know is what's going to happen to my taxes. At this point, we look at maybe a point, so it's not really in terms of dollars and cents, it's more percentages. But so right now our tax rate is 5.99. We look like we might go to a 6.01 or 6.02 rate, which to put into context, for a $150,000 house, that'd be an increase in taxes between $10 and $15 a year. So a very slight increase. And the reason for that is word out of the state is that our property taxes are going to be frozen for the next 3 years. So while that might be an increase for this year, that number would be held frozen for the following 2 years. So we believe that that's a very palatable increase for the public to consume. Also keeping true to our word that we're going to be as fiscally conservative as possible, as we talked about over and over again during the referendum. The second item we talked about tonight dealt with how we're going to finance our health, life, safety work. If you followed along with this process, we've been talking about health, life, safety since spring break of last year. That process is starting to come to a head right now, and what is left is an enormous amount of work and how we're going to pay for it. And so what we looked at, and we've looked at several public meetings since September, is how can we structure the debt to best meet our needs. And so we kind of looked at many different scenarios tonight, but with three things in mind. Number one is, what is the most fiscally responsible route that we can take? How can we be good stewards of taxpayer dollars? Number two is, when we look at the amount of debt that we have left, in terms of when we approach health, life, safety again in 10 years, because we're compelled by law to complete the survey every 10 years. Are we going to leave ourselves in better shape than we would than we would currently? And lastly, are we going to do significant work to the buildings to make a better experience for our kids, and also provide a better building envelope for our community for a long term? And so we ended up really debating heavily for about an hour over three scenarios. One, which is the most fiscally responsible, but would come with a significant tax increase to taxpayers. The second, which is also brings down our overall debt, doesn't increase taxes, and spreads out to where there's actually tax decreases built into it over time. And the third would be where we had a consistent tax rate without increasing debt. All three of them had pros and cons, a lot of discussion, The scenarios are been posted on Board Book last month. They're posted again for this meeting. If you can look at it, currently the committee has chosen to recommend scenario 4. If you want to look at that again, I would reference you back to Board Book.
Yeah, there was some good conversation on that issue, and it's a very, those are the tough issues, the cost and tax rate. We're really trying to be transparent with everyone. We need these repairs done, and we have to do them. And we have to finance that, and the way that's financed is through bonds, and those bonds create a tax issue because they have to be paid for with tax dollars. So a lot of conversation on the 3 scenarios. We believe that we got to the scenario that best meets all of our needs, and that would be to lower our debt below what we currently are, our debt service, to keep a consistent and lower the tax rate that we committed prior to the referendum, and to leave the district in the best position to make future decisions.
And the last item was just a simple notification. When we're looking at doing the health, life, safety work, there's 2 different routes you can take. One is a traditional low-bid architect-driven route, which we are still considering. The other is a performance contracting route, in which you contract with somebody who basically serves as your general contractor, and in doing so, they guarantee you some energy efficiency savings and some performance savings, which allows us by state code to use that process. The benefits of using a process such as that are twofold. First is that there's a guaranteed ceiling of price. When you use an architect price, you get the price quoted, but if there's overages, then the district would be responsible for that. So having that locked in price is very attractive. Secondarily is that you can use preferred vendors, so vendors that the district has established relationships with and trust can be used as opposed to traditional low bid route. What that allows us to do is to route some of the business and some of the work that needs to be done to local vendors, which is a strong preference of this board and of myself. So that was a simple notification that process is going to commence, which is just a release of an email to several different websites and a posting in the paper. This commits us to nothing. This doesn't mean that a choice has been made, but it's one step in the process. That's really all we discussed tonight. Like I said before, Mr. Glendenning talked about talking about those scenarios and trying to figure out how to best finance and meet the needs of the district was the most compelling conversation, and all of the artifacts that support that conversation are available on Board Book for you to consume. Thanks again for listening. Hopefully this was meaningful for you. Have a great night.